Wow, wow. If you aren't awake, energized, and full of vibrancy after that introduction, then I'm going to ask you to ask the person next to you to check your pulse. Let us give those young people from Luther Burbank and John Seal a round of applause. Good morning and welcome to the 2019 State of the City Address. My name is Cassandra Jennings and I'm President and CEO of the Greater Sacramento Urban League. Thank you. It is my honor and privilege to be your MC for today's very special event. We have a great program planned for you today, and I'm sure that it's going to include some reflection, some challenges, some opportunities for the people that live, work, play, worship, and do business here in Sacramento. That's all of us, isn't it? It certainly is. However, before we start, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge our many elected officials in the room, and that's a good thing. Please hold your applause until the end so that we can make sure to acknowledge them all, and we're not here all day, okay? All right, I'm gonna start with let's start with Eric Guerra, the Vice Mayor, Larry Carr, City Council Member, and if you guys could stand, that would be great. Eric Guerra, Larry Carr, City Council Member, Rick Jennings, City Council Member, Steve Hansen, City Council, Jay Chenier, City Council Member, Alan Warren, City Council Member, and Jeff Harris, City Council Member, and our very own Mayor Pro Tem, Angelique Ashby. In addition, we have Robert Hertzberg, Senate Majority Leader, Jim Cooper, Assemblyman, Mike Gibson, Assemblyman, Patrick Kennedy, Sacramento County Supervisor, Kevin McCarty, Assemblyman, thank you, and Honorable Liliana Ferreira, Mexican Consul General, Portia Middleton, Council Member, City of Citrus Heights, Dave Tamaya, SMUD Board, Greg Fishman, SMUD Board, Karina Tamaltis, Trustee, Sacramento County Board of Education, Lisa Morawski, Sac City Unified School District, Susan Harinia, Natomas Unified School District. I know I saw Jesse Ryan, Sac City Unified School District Board Chair, and Howard Chan, who's our city manager. Let's give all of our elected officials a round of applause. We thank all of you for your service and your commitment to our community. Now, please join me in giving a round of applause to this year's sponsors. You will see them in your program, as well as you've seen them scrolling on the screen. Without them, this event could not be possible. And we thank all of you who are sponsors out there for all of the good work that you do for our community as well. Let's give them a round of applause. Okay, now it is my honor to introduce and welcome to the stage the esteemed council member of this district, District 8, which we're in today. Councilmember Larry Carr has served District 8 for 5 years, but before being elected to the City Council, he served on the SMUD Board as Board of Directors from 1998 to 2014. That's 16 long years. And he's also served as the past Executive Director of the Florin Road Partnership that serves this district and throughout the county of Florin Road as well, and the past president of the Sacramento Black Chamber of Commerce. Councilman Carr is also a decorated veteran with 23 years of service in the U.S. Army, where he retired as a lieutenant colonel. Please join me in thanking Councilmember Carr for his service as we welcome him to the stage.
Thank you, Cassandra, and welcome to District 8 and to Meadowview and the Sam and Bonnie Pannell Community Center. Before I go any further, though, I want to thank Shannon Brown, Camille Wise, and Steve Johnson, who helped put this event together and put all these chairs out here and have kept this community center pristine. The facility you're sitting in is 23 years old. It's the brainchild of Sam Pannell. He fought at City Council to get the funds for the then $25 million community center. Right next door to us is a swimming pool that both Sam and Bonnie Pannell worked on. I believe it's the only heated pool in the city's inventory. And right next to that, you will see an all abilities field. This field was put together by Stan Atkinson, Mike Ubaldi, and Art Savage. They put the money into it, they built it, and they also rehabbed it this year. So take a look at that before you leave the area. You're sitting in the heart of Meadowview. Meadowview has a long and rich history. In 1785, all the land south of 14th Street was open for development. The major arteries that you crossed to get here as you came down 99 or I-5, 47, Fruit Ridge, Florin, Meadowview, are all along the original survey lines of the settlement of Franklin, was the Franklin settlement, and north of 14th Street is the Sutter settlement. Remnants of Franklin are all around. Franklin Boulevard is there. We had a Franklin Villa for a while. We turned it into Phoenix Park and rehabbed that. Franklin High School is down the street. And when you leave here, if you look across the street diagonally, you will see a 5-acre parcel. That parcel was the original family cemetery for Franklins. For a long while, the Hmong women used it as a vegetable garden. Vegetables really grew there, too. Bonnie had the bones exhumed, and now it's open for development. I follow at District 8 some distinguished, iconic figures. Of course, Sam and Bonnie Pannell previously occupied this seat. So did Lynn Roby, and so did Bob Matsui. It has not escaped me that I am following people who have their names on the side of public buildings. No pressure. What's happening now? What's Meadowview like today? First of all, it's younger than the rest of the city, than the rest of the districts. It has a lower average income than most council districts. It's really, really diverse. Angelique Ashby from District 1 will argue with me about this, but Meadowview has 33% Hispanics, and the rest, Black, Asians, and whites, make up about 22% of the district. And believe it or not, African Americans are the smallest ethnic group in District 8. People don't believe that because they've had black representation for the last 20 years or so. But it's actually majority Hispanic, and I thank the Council General for helping us reach, contact, and activate the Hispanic community in Sacramento. Let's give her a hand. Here's a fact you won't believe. I will try to convince you. There are 8 council districts in the city of Sacramento. Every month we get the crime stats on the city. We get them broken out by crime, and we get them broken out by district. District 8, which you are sitting in, is always the 2nd or 3rd lowest in crime. That's month after month, year after year, always the 2nd or 3rd lowest in crime. The reason it's hard to believe is because the way crime is reported in Sacramento, anything south of the American River but north of Elk Grove is reported as South Sacramento. And when you hear South Sacramento, people think Meadowview. And that's why that statistic is so difficult to believe. In fact, Chief Hine didn't even believe it the first time he heard it. He asked for verification on that. Within the last 3 years, we have seen over $225 million of public and private investment in this district. So sometimes our district community members feel like we're being forgotten. We are getting invested, and we're going to get more investment in this district. We continue to work with the nonprofits like Rose Family Development Empowerment to help our citizens better themselves. We continue to support them. We convinced the Air Resources Board to put ride-share electric vehicles in our low-income multifamily complexes. Thank you, Mary Nichols. We open a Boys and Girls Club next week in Laguna. Thank you, John Shirey. I told John Shirey we needed a Boys and Girls Club, and I had a developer who was going to come in and grade the land, and we were going to buy some temporaries from someone to put them up. And John said, no, that's not the way we do it in the city. So he got the project going, and that Boys and Girls Club will open in a few weeks. This spring, right next door, we open a kitchen. The kitchen will be staffed by professional chefs at the swimming pool. The chefs will teach our young people how to prepare food that they're going to prepare for themselves, prepare for their families, and sell to the community. This year, Meadowview Road will be completely reinvented and redesigned, thanks to SACOG. Thank you, Angelique, you were on SACOG at that time. And also, thanks to my council colleagues, we're starting a pilot project to take down the chain link fences, take out the sod, and put in drought-tolerant, easy-to-maintain landscaping. We're going to beautify our community. Thank you, council colleagues. You voted for that. So what does the future hold? We talked about the past. We talked about the present. What about the future? The greatest challenge our community faces is low income. The income level of our community is very low. That's why the City Council passed an ordinance saying that any construction project by the city over $1 million will hire people from Meadowview, Oak Park, and Del Paso. Our City Council voted for that 9-0, by the way. We understand, my council members understand the gravity of the situation. Of course, income inequality is a national debate. Where the rubber meets the road, right here, we see communities suffer because wealth has been allowed to accumulate in the hands of a few. At the city level, we will continue to meet our obligations. We will hire, we will invest in economic development, and we will invest in our young people. With Measure U's passage, I'm sure we will be able to do more, and I think the next speaker might have a little bit to say about that. District 8 is honored to host the first State of the City address to be held in a neighborhood. Because Sacramento is not just about downtown. It takes prosperous neighborhoods coupled with a vibrant urban core to make a city great. And we are determined to keep building on our momentum. So again, I say thank you, welcome to District 8, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Councilmember Carr. I told you were going to get some reflections. I meant to say you're going to get a history lesson, too. But this is important to know, and you'll hear a lot of that throughout our little short time that we're going to be sharing with you today, is the history from where we have come from and certainly where we are going. In 2016, the Sacramento City Council passed a resolution that established the ongoing annual Mort Freeman Legacy Award as part of the State of the City event. The Mort Freeman Legacy Award recognizes an individual who has demonstrated a strong commitment to Sacramento, public service through work and leadership, and made a positive impact that is felt today and for generations to come. The inaugural Legacy Award was made posthumously to Mort Friedman in 2013 and has been awarded in subsequent years to Joyce Rayleigh Teal, Dr. William H. Lee, Angelo Sakopoulos, and Tina Thomas. We are so honored to have Marcy Freeman and Mark Freeman here with us today in the audience, not only to represent her husband and the father, but to represent their legacy as well, and who also carry out that legacy today. So thank you, Mark and Marcy, for being here today. We appreciate all that Mort has done and your family are continuously doing for our community. Now, we would like to bring up and welcome Mayor Darrell Steinberg to the stage to present this year's Legacy Award winner. Thank you, Mayor Steinberg.
Thank you very much, Cassandra. This is a now wonderful part of the tradition of the state of the city in Sacramento. And I want to take just a moment to reflect on the contribution and my friendship with Mort Friedman. And I'm so glad that his wife and his son are with us here today. Mort was a dear friend and represented for me the embodiment of what Sacramento is all about. Mort was the hardest of hard workers. He was fierce in his loyalty and his devotion to his community, to his family, and to his friends. And he had the biggest heart of anyone around. He showed that you can both succeed in business and have all kinds of success, and at the same time, always be focused on giving back. And that's what the Friedman family continues to do in Sacramento, and I'm just grateful to know you, to be your friend, and to be able to present this award here today. And I cannot imagine anyone more deserving of this year's Friedman Legacy Award than Miss Jackie Rose. As I said, come on up. I got a few more things to say. This award, as I said, was created to honor the legacy of Mort Friedman, and again is intended to embody the spirit of someone who believed in Sacramento and in all of its people, and that's certainly Ms. Jackie. She is not someone you see in the headlines too often on television news, but that's only because Ms. Jackie and her colleagues do the work without show, behind the scenes. She has helped educate and enrich the lives of 3 generations of children in Meadowview. Thousands of local residents have attended her after-school summer academic arts and music programs. Neighborhood Arts, this is the leader here. The Friedman family, of course, has always been there to support the arts in Sacramento, leading the way on the Crocker, but so much more. Ms. Jackie, too, has played a pivotal role, one child at a time. She has seen the remarkable change in kids who are given a chance to express themselves creatively. Grades improve, behavior improves. Today, that was her kids who performed for us in their drumline. 50 others from John Stilcade and Luther Burbank High School are taking video and conducting interviews here today as part of the State of the City address. You were able to purchase the state-of-the-art equipment because of the $50,000 Rails grant from the city, so thank you to my colleagues on the City Council for helping make that happen. And if all that was not enough, Ms. Jackie's organization is the Meadowview incubator for the Black Child Legacy Campaign. Her office on Florin Road is a one-stop shop for families in need of services ranging from mental health counseling to finding housing. Thank you, Ms. Jackie, for your humility, for your devotion, for never forsaking any child or any neighborhood. You are a hero to us here in Sacramento. I want to present you not only with the award, but I thought I had a key to the city as well. Ms. Jackie Rose, here we go.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mayor Steinberg. First, I want to thank the Friedman family for their generosity and recognition for the work I have done for this community for many, many years. The Mort Friedman Legacy Award means a lot to me. I will be forever grateful to you and your family. Thank you so much. I would also like to thank Mayor Steinberg and his staff for listening and fulfilling a promise to a community that sometimes has been forgotten. In honor of Black History Month, I stand on the shoulders of two giants, the Honorable Sam and Bonnie Pannell, now our ancestors. I committed to both of them many years ago that I would continue to carry out their legacy in South Sacramento. Their legacy can be seen, as you heard earlier from Councilmember Carr, through this community center that you sit in today, the Delta Shore Shopping Center. I remember Bonnie getting my kids from Phoenix Park to help design those businesses over there long ago. Phoenix Park Apartments, which is truly my love. I love that place. I love those people in that community, formerly Franklin Villa, and bringing light rail to South Sacramento. All of these projects that have been vital to the improvement of the quality of life for many of the folks that had lost hope has made a big difference. Their legacy will live on. Sam and Bonnie's legacy will live on in me, and I will pass it on to the next generation. No one does this kind of work without a supporting cast. I would like to first thank my husband, who no one hardly ever sees, plays a very important role just making sure that I'm supported in this work. He oftentimes tells me that he will not get in the way of the work that I do because he will get struck by lightning because this is God's work. And he knows that. Okay, I would also like to thank my dedicated and committed family members and staff. I have such a dedicated and committed staff. We work long hours, and they are right there beside me working those long hours to meet the needs of the families here in South Sacramento. A great deal of our agency success begins with commitment and hard work. Our motto in the Rose Family Creative Empowerment Center with our young people that we serve, over 1,000 a day in all of the schools that we run elementary school, is hard work pays off. If you ask any of them, they will tell you that motto because we recite that motto in all of our after-school programs. Nothing in life is done without some hard work. I would also be remiss today without mention of the Clark family, who is here today as my guest. Stefante is sitting over there. I just want to say I admire their resilience and their commitment of the healing of Meadowview. Thank you very much to the Clark family. As Stefante always reminds us quite often, everybody loves everybody. And I love that motto because that is so true. We all have to love each other. And then I can't stand up here without all of you please making sure that you take an interview with our talented young folks that are trying to do the multimedia project that the rail grant offered them at John Steele in Burbank. These kids are so talented. They just need a chance to show what they have. And so I would just like to thank all of you today, and thank you again to the Freeman family for this award. Thank you so much.
And here is your key to the city. You're wonderful, Jackie. Thank you.
Congratulations, Miss Jackie. I know I had the pleasure of working with you with SHRA for many years in Phoenix Park and South Sacramento, and you just do great work. There's no other person that I could think of that would be warranted for this award today, so congratulations. Now, for the part that we've all been waiting for. And I want to take a moment of personal privilege to just share with you what it means to me to present our mayor to you today. Now, I know he needs no introduction. He's dedicated his life to the public service, and if I were to cover all of his accomplishments during his tenure, not only as mayor, but in his entire career, we'd be here all week, and you wouldn't like me very much then. So I won't subject you to that, but I do want to say that I think that there is not a better leader at this appointed time than our mayor for this city. He is genuinely, deep down in his heart, cares for all of us, for all people. He reaches wide and deep in the community. He listens intently. He sits at the boardrooms, tables everywhere. He brings resources, and he walks the talk for action time after time after time. He recognizes the importance of equity and inclusion, not at the expense of anyone, but to the benefit of all. I'll share one story with you that sort of captures the spirit of the man and the leader that I know and respect. I want to take you back because you've already had some history lessons. I go way back to his humble beginnings as a public servant, as a council member in District 6 here in Sacramento. I was with the redevelopment agency, and we had a lot of work to do. This is over 20 years ago, but the image still of his work still is vivid in my mind. I was with SHRA, and we were working to address some illegal dumping issues, some code enforcement, some disinvestment, including some drug houses in Avondale, Glen Elder neighborhood. I remember an elderly woman named Cora Mason who lived next to one of those houses. Then Councilmember Steinberg held meetings. He met one-on-one. And at that time, we were meeting in people's houses, trying to figure out what was the best way to approach issues and concerns. And then I remember we sort of said, let's take it to the streets. And so I remember one cold night like it was cold this morning, because I remember the image that comes on TV used to time and time where I had on a hat and gloves, because you know I'm from the East, it was cold to me. We went to the streets. Councilmember Steinberg was in the middle, and nearly everybody from that neighborhood, we were locked in arms, and we were marching down the streets, proclaiming a better life for people for that community. That's the image of communities standing together, and that's how I think of our mayor today. His dedication, his perseverance, his relentless commitment to our communities, to our city, and to our region started a long time ago. It didn't start yesterday. It didn't start when he became mayor. It was a long time ago. And through the journey that he has been afforded, he is well prepared at this appointed time to represent us in a way that will set a legacy forever. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming my friend, our mayor, Mayor Darrell Steinberg, back to the stage.
Thank you. Wow, Cassandra, thank you for that beautiful introduction. I can remember that night as well, some 27 years ago now. I remember it was Vallecito's Way in Glen Elder. I remember you, I remember the late Mary Brill. I remember all of us marching together, and that was the start of a very important chapter of my public service and of our city. I want to thank you for emceeing today's event and for your outstanding leadership heading the Greater Sacramento Urban League. You've been it for the long haul, just like I have, and I'm very appreciative of you and that you agreed to emcee this today. Thank you to all of my city council colleagues who are here: Angelique Ashby, Alan Warren, Jeff Harris, Steve Hansen, Eric Guetta, Jay Chenier, Rick Jennings, and Larry Carr. We are a team. I say it often. I do nothing alone. We are building this city together with the community in good times and bad. I'm privileged to serve with you. To all of the other elected officials and appointed officials who are here, the assembly member and school board members and county supervisor and Ambassador Ferrer and school board president Ryan and all of the other officials, and Jorge Aguilar is here, I see, our superintendent of public instruction in Sacramento, and of course to the city manager. This is a bicameral city, if you will, in a very different way. And it takes a partnership to do what we are doing. And Howard, you, not just you, but your entire team, the chiefs, Chief Hahn, Chief Loge, all your department heads, everyone who works for the city, I want to thank you for being here today and for your partnership. And I want to introduce the love of my life, 27 years, been through every chapter of public service with me and is still hanging with me, if you can believe that. Cantor Julie Steinberg, thank you for being here today. I love you. And most important, to our community, thank you for being here today. I remember in my early days on the city council in the 1990s, watching Sam and later Bonnie Pannell fight for their district, and in particular for Meadowview. In their own unique ways, they insisted that our city cannot, must not, have some neighborhoods with all the amenities and opportunities, and other neighborhoods with virtually nothing. Watching their efforts and the creation of what is now known as the Pannell Community Center was for me an early and tangible example of what happens when city government and community leadership combine forces to inject hope into forgotten neighborhoods. Last year, I delivered my annual State of the City address at the Memorial Auditorium and hosted the sponsors' breakfast at Luca. It was a great experience. I had the chance to explain why inclusive or neighborhood-based economic development must be our city's priority. It was the beginning of our ultimately successful Measure U campaign. This year, I chose the Pannell Community Center in Meadowview. The sponsors' breakfast finished just a few moments ago at the IHOP down the street. The food and company were great. This is the first State of the City address in recent memory outside the downtown core. The choice is intentional. There is no important venue to hold this year's State of the City address than Meadowview. For even if Meadowview and our entire city had not lived through the profound events of the past year, I know I would have chosen one of Sacramento's great neighborhoods for this annual rite. What I speak about today is not just about Meadowview, but all the Sacramento neighborhoods that rightfully demand our attention. I love the downtown, but the core of the city is broader than downtown. The core of our city is not just about geography. It's about people, and it's about values. There is strength everywhere in our city. The view from Mack Road, Del Paso Boulevard, Northgate Boulevard, and Marina Vista Alder Grove is as important as the view from J Street. And the life chances of a third grader growing up in one zip code should be no less than those of a third grader growing up in another. Traditionally, this speech is an opportunity to lay out all the great achievements in our city and many more to be accomplished. The truth is, there are many things to celebrate about the last year and the arc of our changing Sacramento. You know what they are, and we fought hard to achieve them. Thank you for those victories. But this would not be an honest speech about the state of our city if we did not today, in this place, at this moment, talk about race, peace, justice, and the death of Stephon Clark. The shooting of Stephon Clark, less than a mile from where we gather this morning, did not create this moment, but it undoubtedly intensified and elevated the movement by ripping open deep wounds in our past. How do I, as your mayor, give voice to the pain that is so real and so raw in our community? How do I, as a relatively privileged white man, let my suffering community members know that they do not suffer alone, that their elected leaders are genuinely committed to change? How do I step into your shoes? I start by saying and meaning the only thing that I know matters to Stephon's family and many in our community. I am deeply sorry for what happened to Stephon. I am deeply sorry for the pain that will always be with you. The outcome was wrong. He should not have died. I struggle with the right words and how to speak to the entire community. I listen to Stephon's family and the community say that this has happened too many times, and they are right. Undeniable fact. Even when our young African-American men don't die, their mothers and grandmothers and aunts and friends often fear for their lives when they walk out the door. Undeniable fact. Too many law-abiding young African-American men experience many of their interactions with law enforcement in hostile and negative ways. Undeniable fact. Many African-American parents do in fact teach their 16-year-olds to hold the 10-2 steering wheel position when they are pulled over. Show your hands. I never would have thought to mention such a thing to my kids when they learn to drive. I do not intend to make what I say next some political balancing of the scales or attempt at moral equivalence. Our police officers put their own lives on the line. They and their families live each day with the fear of not knowing whether they will come home alive. They confront real crime. They protect our neighborhoods from gangs and robberies and home break-ins, and help people who are having a hard time with addiction, mental illness, and simply surviving. I have seen it. At the same time, the vast majority of our young people in Sacramento are working hard and are doing the right thing. Yet some younger people of all races act irresponsibly and disrespect themselves and their communities. That's true too. I can sit down with a justifiably traumatized African-American mother and a young police officer an hour apart, telling their side of the historic divide, and my head spins. One's experience does not invalidate the other's. Who is right? What is right? Can't we find better ways to listen, to protect, to help each other heal? I do not know what the district attorney and the attorney general will decide over the days, weeks, or months ahead. If they decide not to bring criminal charges based on the existing state law, I know there will be real anger about such a result. And so, what is the state of our city's relationship between our men and women in uniform and the communities, especially the communities of color, that they are sworn to serve? We are fortunate to have a great police chief, Daniel Hahn, sitting in the second row. Who was born and raised here in Sacramento. We are fortunate to have a chief and department that are leaning in and are well ahead of other cities in becoming more transparent and changing policies and protocols. We mandate body cameras. We release video of many incidents immediately. And we mandate that foot pursuit be a last resort, not the preferred police practice. We have opened ourselves up to a full review by the State Attorney General. That is leadership. Our department is also actively pursuing a transformational policing model for our city. Over the past month, 100 officers and community members came together to take a hard look at the roots of distrust between law enforcement and the communities they serve. Participants spent 2 days sharing their experiences to better understand how we might overcome these issues. It is a start. But our work in some ways has only just begun. The Attorney General and our own Office of Public Safety Accountability have told us clearly that while our use of force policy may meet strict legal requirements, there is much more we must do to bring clarity and safety to meet the spirit of the law and of our city's values. We must place more emphasis on the sanctity of life. And we must ensure our police response is not disproportionate to the suspected crime. The Attorney General said our police officers must see themselves as guardians of our neighborhoods, not as enforcers. How will people react on that day, knowing that our department is miles ahead of neighboring law enforcement agencies, but still far from where we need to go? I hope and pray and work for peace and nonviolence. We have all been working hard these last months, and especially the last weeks, to think, to organize, and to prepare for all possible outcomes. Mostly what we have been doing, however, is listening. Listening to the pain, to the frustration, and to the wisdom of our community. Your message is right and clear. To focus on peace without addressing justice would be a grave mistake. To try to contain the community's anger would be a worse mistake. Nonviolence does not mean inaction. Peaceful protest is not a problem to handle, but a right to embrace. We do not need to contain. We must instead lead. The best chance we have for peace is for people to know and see that we mean to change what must change. The truth of modern-day police officers is that they both put their lives at risk and they have an awesome power to take lives. As a community and as a country, we have an obligation to insist that this awesome power be tempered with wisdom, justice, and humility. Where that power is exercised fairly, the officers who serve selflessly and humbly every day must be lifted up and celebrated. Where they exercise that power harshly or unfairly, we must hold them and ourselves accountable. Where state laws must change to reflect the difference, I strongly support changing those laws. The long-held constitutional standard that allows officers to shoot when objectively reasonable must shift to a clear set of specific rules and standards that require officers to do all they can to prevent a potentially lethal confrontation in the first place. Our city must push to the front of the nation on transformative community policing, restorative justice, continued transparency, and accountability for all we do. There is no turning back. The old days are over. Yet, if we stop at the intersection of law enforcement and our community, especially our communities of color, we are stopping too soon. The evidence of generations of trauma and systemic poverty is beyond dispute. The hope, opportunity, and opening for healing and generational change is right in front of us. Let us step into the breach together. The police issues are rightfully magnified because officers have the legal authority to take a life. But our challenge today is not just what to do as a police department or a city to address the lessons of Stephon Clark, but more profoundly, what do we as human beings do to change ourselves and our ways? When marchers took to downtown streets a year ago to protest the death of Stephon Clark, they were walking through the old West End, a neighborhood that in 1950 housed 70% of the city's minority population. Right around the same time, the West End was labeled blighted and demolished to make room for I-5 and state office buildings. And why was it blighted? Because the Federal Housing Administration refused to underwrite mortgages to non-white borrowers, saying they were a threat to property values. There weren't a whole lot of other choices when it came time to move. Racially restrictive covenants barred non-whites from neighborhoods like Curtis Park and East Sacramento. Instead, they went to neighborhoods like Oak Park, Meadowview, and Del Paso Heights, which didn't have such restrictions. The late, great Nathaniel Colley, Sacramento's first African-American lawyer, passed on his experience of what it took for an African-American family to buy a home in segregated Southland Park in the 1950s. His son, Nat Jr., told a B reporter that white friends of the Colley family agreed to act as the actual purchasers for the Colleys, since no one would sell to them directly. When my mom would check on construction, Nat Jr. said, she would let them think she was the maid. After we moved in, there was a cross burning on the lawn, but it was a fairly quiet experience after that. The Colleys' experience was anything but remarkable or unique. It was, in fact, common. This is not just Black history. This is our history. Our shared history. We must acknowledge the past and learn from it so we can avoid repeating it. Sacramento lives with these historic wrongs today. Inequities have persisted in many forms over the past half-century. In the mid-2000s, subprime lenders aggressively targeted minority homeowners with high-interest loans, even if they could have qualified for lower rates. When the recession hit, thousands of our people lost their homes. The percentage of African American families who own their homes in Sacramento County was cut in half and now stands at about 25%, the lowest rate in a century. Today in Sacramento, our communities of color are starved for real investments, new and expanded businesses, new jobs, and not just social services. And it's not just the African American community that demands our attention. Other communities of color face similar challenges, and in many more Sacramento neighborhoods than just Meadowview. 70% of the children in the Sacramento City Unified School District are poor enough to qualify for free breakfast and lunch. That says it all. Our youth deserve not only more weekend and after-school activities, but also clear pathways to high-wage jobs. Our historic commercial corridors have vision, passion, but few resources to realize their potential. We have this incredible energy and some new resources around art and culture and bringing back arts to our schools, but so little funding to make arts and culture a centerpiece of our neighborhood movement. Start with the basics. This impressive facility that Sam and Bonnie Pannell fought so hard to build is closed on Tuesdays and Sundays and only open until noon on Saturdays. Spending on youth programs was slashed during the recession and remains more than 25% below 2006 levels. Heroic nonprofit leaders have stepped in. Here, of course, in Meadowview, you met Jackie Rose. The Rose Family Creative Empowerment Center, led by Ms. Jackie, this year's Friedman Award winner, educates hundreds of children in after-school and summer programs in our public schools. It runs that drumline and choir. It helps struggling families of all ethnicities find housing and overcome tremendous obstacles. Many neighborhood kids, and even some of their parents, had never seen the ocean before going on a field trip to San Francisco with Ms. Jackie. As she likes to say, whatever someone else deserves at a high level, this community also deserves it. There are Ms. Jackies throughout our entire city, but they struggle to cobble together the resources to keep doing what she calls the heart work of serving the community. When I think of Meadowview, I think of Ms. Jackie and of hardworking families, but that is not the image of Meadowview that our society necessarily sees. A Google search produces results heavy on crime, including the headline for a TV story entitled "The Lost Boys of Meadowview." It must not be this way. As I said almost a year ago, when I launched our campaign for Measure U, great cities leave no one behind. today, I renew our call to action for all of our Sacramento neighborhoods and all of our people. Last November, 57% of Sacramento voters chose to add 1/2 cent to their sales tax. Though the voters passed a general tax, I campaigned clearly and energetically as your mayor to make the signature focus of these new resources transformational investments to change generational poverty. Some rolled their eyes. Many thought it would never pass. Just like homelessness, I do not pretend that one measure, or one mayor, or one city can fix all of society's ills. But there is an equal truism on the other side. If we do not insist on equity, if we do not put real resources where our beliefs and our values lie, then we will relegate more generations of people to lesser lives than they deserve, and we can't do that. You know where I stand as your mayor, and I am grateful for the strong backing from our city council and the voters. Fortunately, the economy is still booming. We will have revenue growth for at least the foreseeable future. We must continue to bolster our core city services and treat our employees with the dignity and the respect that they deserve. Let us be honest about last year's election. But for the rallying cry to invest in growing a modern, inclusive economy, the city undoubtedly would have sought to merely renew the old Measure U at 1/2 cent. Our obligation to follow through on what we campaign for is crystal clear to me. For at least the first 5 years, I call for the lion's share of the second 1/2 cent of Measure U to be invested directly in economic equity in our neighborhoods. Let us set aside $40 million a year for at least 5 years in our Economic Trust Fund. That's $200 million, and it will demonstrate clearly that this movement is not just a whim or a fancy. Our commitment is long overdue. Our commitment is real. Our commitment is right. Through our soon-to-be appointed Measure U Advisory Committee and the expert advice of a broad and diverse investment committee, the City Council will have the ability and the capacity to partner with the private sector, our other public sector partners, and most important with our community to boldly invest in all our Sacramento neighborhoods. No more young people's lives sacrificed to the old excuse, we just don't have the money. No more forgotten commercial corridors. No more lack of resources to address our affordable housing crisis. No more lack of capital to help start or grow neighborhood small businesses. No more wishing we could attract more Fortune 100 employers like Centene. The old days of wouldn't it be great are over in Sacramento. This $200 million plan will still leave $10 million a year from the new 1/2 cent, plus $50 million a year from the current 1/2 cent, plus all the revenue growth, plus the significant anticipated revenue from our emerging legal cannabis industry to both enhance core services and to maintain healthy reserves. Providing public safety, police and fire, and other core services is still the the most important function of any city. But we can only enhance those core functions for the people if we are committed to building a real and a broad tax base. Building up all our neighborhoods is good for all of Sacramento. And we will find real ways outside of Measure U to maintain the momentum on broader citywide priorities. We have $40 million of new money to transform Sacramento's waterfront because of the efficient way we manage the convention center and community center theater expansions. Sacramento can, in fact, have it all. There is the state of our city as I see it. We gather in the middle of winter. The days are short. Spring feels like a long time away. We may have some difficult days ahead, but we have a choice. Sacramento's next days and months must be a tipping point, not a breaking point. Spring promises renewal and new hope. May Sacramento experience peace this spring and in all seasons. May we always show our love for one another. May we grow our fierce devotion for all our neighborhoods and all our people. And may we back it up with action that inspires our wonderful city and generations to come. Thank you very much. This is the beginning, and only the beginning, of a new and bold direction in our city. It's going to put $350,000 towards continuing these Friday night youth activities in our city.
We're the future, like we're the next generation, so we have to, step up and make a change. This is important because, it's a safe space for people and it'll bring communities together.
I grew up in Sacramento my whole life, from this neighborhood, Oak Park. I love my community.
Sacramento it's a good place to be.
I've so far liked the 16 years I've been in this city.
It's like how my background makes me look a certain way. The background of Sacramento also makes it look a certain way.
I need more programs from the city.
It would be great to have more mentors in our community.
I feel like we need in our community to have more teen and children events.
More opportunities like this or more open gyms to keep kids out of trouble.
I feel like it should be like more activities for girls in particular, because usually they only have basketball.
I would like to see more of special education services for like autistic, Down syndrome.
If I wasn't here, I'd probably be out at home, watching TV.
What would I be doing on Friday night? I'd be in the house sleep.
I think Sacramento will be a lot better than it was 20 years ago. Hopefully it'll be a lot better than it was today.
It can be a place where everybody wants to come, like they hear good things about it. They're like, oh, Sacramento, I want to go there,
I'm thinking of becoming a teacher when I grow up.
I like to be cook, chef, like culinary.
Be a nurse at UC Davis.
So it's like I don't know what I want to do, but I know I'm going to be successful.
I pledge to grow, I pledge to love, and I pledge to help.
I pledge to grow, I pledge to love, and I pledge to help.
I pledge to grow.
I pledge to love.
And I pledge to help Sacramento.
Thank you all. This concludes your State of the City. Thank you very much.